Welcome to my 4th episode. This is Twisted Dye Kitchen, my fiber journey. My name is Sherry, and I'm located here in Kirkwood, Missouri. It's a beautiful fall day here. The foliage is at its peak. All the maples are just beautiful with their yellows and reds, just gorgeous. I'm so glad you're here for this fiber journey. I look forward to showing you some of my newest off the frame in my knitting bag, in my spinning bags. I look forward to sharing more of my adventures and my paths that I took over the past couple of weeks. Come on, let's go. Let's go together. Let's experience some fun in our lives for just a short while. Thanks. 2 years in the making. It is complete. Took this off a couple weeks ago off the shetty camp, and took me a while to finish the edges, but this is my design depicting Native Americans, their artwork. I divided it in half, primarily for the reason of the design motifs that I had in mind wouldn't work going both directions. So hold on to your eyesight. I just love these Indian motifs. I thought they were so cool, so imperfect. As you just saw, my hallway runner. Took me a couple of weeks to really devote time to get the edging correct. As I mentioned to you in episode 3, I took the width of my linen backing and did 1 3/4 inches. I sewed, like I told you, I sewed all the way around so that it wouldn't prevent the linen from fraying. I folded it in half towards the edge of the rug, the top portion, and then I folded that in half again. I used these clips that I purchased from Spruce Ridge. Chris Miller, she's the owner of Spruce Ridge. She's been a dear friend of mine for several years. I bought those clips from her because I was tired of hurting myself with pins to keep those edges down. And I'm really glad I did. So check her out. She'll enjoy knowing that I sent you over there, and we need to take care of our small business owners, especially during this COVID time. So as I mentioned, 2 years from my journal. That's how long it took me. So I took pictures of a trip that we took several years ago. When I went into this building, I knew that those Southwest Indian motifs were going to be in a rug. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to design it, but I just knew that I had to have that in our home. So after a couple of renditions, sizing, proportions, I put it on the designs on linen, did my palette of color choices, and stuck with that. 2 years later, it is off the shetty camp frame, and it is completely edged. I did it in black. The reason being is, one, most of the frames in our home are black, and I wanted your eye to stop. Most of the time, you don't want attention drawn to that edging. You just want your eye to just relax and just stay within the motif area. But in this particular instance, because it was so busy and the colors were so bold, I wanted to make sure that the eye saw an edge, saw an ending to this image. So I'm really glad that that's complete. I wanted to focus a lot of my energy, probably 90% of my energy these past couple of weeks, to get this done. I have a couple of more ideas that I mentioned to you that I wanted to put on my Shedicamp frame, and I'm going to do some smaller images. I'm thinking 16 by 20, maybe 11 by 14, which is really small for me. It sounds funny, but what I'm planning on doing is I have a couple of images that my husband took that I'm really happy about and want to see in a rug form. With it being smaller like this, I tend to hook with an 8.5, sometimes a 9. And with this smaller size, I need to reduce the cut size to either a 6 or a 5, which is really small for me. But I'm really excited for the challenge. I'm really excited for this imagery. One is a lighthouse. The other is some waterfalls. And then I think the other is just going to be some of the landscape that we saw with all the beautiful colors. So I'm looking forward to having that. When I get those designs put on the canvas, I mean my linen, I'll give you a sneak peek. But due to a lot of the copyright, I'm trying not to expose too much of my images, just so that I can keep that for myself. And as I mentioned to you before, I do sell some of my rug patterns. I have some. If you're interested, just let me know. Maybe later on, if I do more episodes, I'll go ahead and show some of my patterns. And with the patterns comes some of my embellishments, meaning yarns, silks, things of that nature. So if you're interested, just let me know. Either post a comment below or send me an Instagram message. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. And now we're going to go into the spinning portion. I have more Jacob white yarn or white fiber that I spun into singles, and I'm going to be plying those within the next couple of weeks. But you've already seen that, so I didn't want to be redundant with that. But what I did want to show you is how I transport my spindles. And believe it or not, I believe this is a dowel basket. I have a lid, and I keep all my spindles and my fiber in this basket like this. And it keeps everything nice and tidy for when I'm ready to spin. And since I have a very big dog, I'm sure you're aware of that, she loves wooden spindles, and I don't want her to have too much fun with these. But I keep them in my baskets like such. This basket, I love this little basket. It's from, I'm trying to think. I think this is Button Jar. Yeah, it's Button Jar. And it has a nice little canvas on the inside. Very well done. I love her color schemes. But I like to stand them up like this in my bag. So one, I can see them and see how full they are and see if I need to add any more. And when they do get to that completion, then I keep them in here. And when I'm ready to ply these together. I have several white Jacob on my spindles. I wanted to see how they would look. I'm going to show you. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. But I spin very thin, which is kind of surprising on my spindles. as opposed to on the wheel, which gives me the opportunity to see how fine I can get. Now this fiber right here, I've had for a while, and because I've had them for a while, the roving tends to be real matted and real tight. So what I'll do is I'll strip them the length of the roving. I'll split them again 2 or 3 times, however I feel at that particular moment. And then what I do is I take it and I kind of separate it a little bit. I'll open up the fibers so that I can have easier draft time. And with the support spindle, you want to make it as easy as possible. Drop spindles are the same way, but I'll go ahead and keep these as airy as possible so that when I get ready to spin these, they'll be ready to go. So this is kind of one of how the braid looked. So I'm not really all that worried about how they're going to ply together. Spin Cycle, is known for their barber pulling, and I really like that. So I just like to play with it, see what I like about it, and then make notes in my spinning journals so that when I want to go forward with a very colorful braid, I can go ahead and look to that note and then see if I want to take that idea, that concept, and do that with the newest fiber. Now, someone had mentioned what this fiber was. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. When we go on our trips to the national parks, I try to go to either different yarn shops or fiber shops, and this one I believe was in Montana, and this is merino, yak, and silk, and this is a beautiful chartreuse fiber. And it's interesting, you can see where the yak is. Yak is a very, very short fiber, and it's always best to add it to another longer length fiber so that it can provide some density and some softness and some variety to the spin. Now this particular one, since this roving, see how the roving is, it's pretty tight, pretty dense, and because it's long, that it's been like this is what I'm talking about as far as taking that fiber, taking chunks of it like this, separating the fiber like that. And then what I'll do is I'll take the fiber and I'll fluff. I'll add some air to it. And then I'll create this little nest, keeping the color intact, not messing with the color variations. And then I'll just keep going like this until I'm at the end of that little section that I split off. And then where I have it, what I like, then I'll just go ahead and very lightly put it into a little nest. And then I'll put that in my basket so that when I'm ready to go ahead and spin this particular fiber, then I'll be ready to go and not spend so much time prepping the fiber. But when you have fibers that are like this, you have to be very delicate and provide air to it so that it shows off the fiber really well. This is just my thoughts, my experience. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good, bad, right or wrong. It just happens to be what I have. Now in this little basket, I also have my little nitty knotty. I just love this for my spindles. I keep it in there, and this is from Katrinkles, KATRINKLES.com. And I love it because I'll go ahead and once I get finished with plying them, I have a ply stand from Spanish Peacock that I use for my spindles. And then when I'm finished with that, then I'll go ahead and put it on my nitty knotty, and then I have a small little skein from my spindles. So that's kind of my little pattern, my little process. But I keep everything intact. It just keeps everything nice and neat and tidy and protected from my lovely dog. So see, here's the little lid that comes on it. And it's all tucked away. And there it goes. Hope you enjoyed that. That was a little fun. Little find. I saw this basket at a garage sale. And my husband's like, "You're going to get a doll basket?" And I said, "Yeah, I can put all my spindles in there." He was like, "Okay, that sounds great." So now we're on to the knitting section. Knitting really took a backseat this past couple of weeks, primarily because I wanted to focus all my time and finish the rug. When you have something that large, you really need, or at least I do, I need to stay focused on it so that I can accomplish a goal and have it done. So with the knitting, I did frog my red sweater. It was so sad. But now my thoughts are, how am I going to pick a pattern that's best suited for my skill level of knitting? As I mentioned to you, I'm learning things about myself that pertain to knitting, of what's too much of a challenge, what is the best construction for me. And I really enjoy the top-down knitting. I picked up my shawl that I made, that I'm making with my hand-spun yarn. And I dabbled with that a little bit, but I'm also working on my son's shawl, which I showed you, which is the Stephen West pattern. Haven't gotten very far on that. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll have that. 1, 2, 3. I think this is the 4th part that I'm going to be on, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So I'll have a 4th color. So that'll be really cool. I also have, as I mentioned to you, Ruby Moss Cottage and I shared our handmade gifts and or de-stash some of the items that are in our home. This is a darling little project bag that she gave me, and I immediately knew that my daughter's pattern that I'm making her a scarf for needed a little home. So this scarf is hopefully going to be completed and off my needles for the Christmas. And there's a really cool little lace portion down here, down at the bottom. And then I added the red to this, and then this color to the stripes. And then the end on the opposite side will be the red lace, so that I can use up almost all of these two yarns. I just love these. Very complementary to each other. And I purchased this, I want to say, a couple of years ago. And I know it had to do something with Comic-Con. My daughter's into Comic-Con and all those characters, and I don't know anything about them. Although I do know that my granddaughter is named Diana, and her name came from Wonder Woman. So that's pretty cool. So that's about the extent of what I know as far as the comic world and that type of world that's out there. I don't know anything about it. But this pattern is called Motley. I don't know if you can see that. I just thought it would be really cool. She wanted a scarf. She's not a shawl person. So I thought it was pretty and lightweight that she can wear spring and fall and then wrap around in the house during the winter months. So that's it for knitting. So my new little path that I'm kind of exploring right now is the fountain pen world, watercolor, pen and ink. Well, I wanted to let you know that it is a path that I'm going down. Whether or not I'm going to have it on my episodes, I'm not sure yet. Depends on how much I really do. Over this past couple of weeks, you remember how I told you I was going to try and draw? No. My focus was the rug. I didn't want to distract myself. Plus, with the weather being so nice, I was outside quite a bit working on my garden. But in the morning, while I'm drinking my coffee, I watch any new updated YouTube videos, podcasts, and I was starting to take notes in these little books. And I got these little books from Goulet Pen. By the way, I'm filming this on Friday, which is National Fountain Pen Day. Yay! To my other fellow fountain penners. That's a word. Anyway, I got these little books as just experimenting with different papers. And I liked the little book concept. Well, I kept them on my desk and I started writing in them. And then I realized it's like, well, shoot, I should make these into little journals because they're sitting on my desk all the time. So what I did is I covered them. I'm sorry for the reflection. I covered them with some little artwork and some verbiage. This one says fresh every day. And it has some watercoloring in it. And I labeled it YouTube Art Urban Creatives. So these are anytime I go on and I look at some YouTubes for urban sketching and I like any type of ideas or thoughts, I'll go ahead and scribble, draw. See, I did a little drawing and I did a little, these are people and how to proportion the people, showed shadows. I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm putting all my little notes in here, which I thought this is a little bitty journal that's going to sit on my desk. Here's another YouTube viewing. So any type of YouTube channels, whether it's for fountain pens, whether it's for knitting or even sewing, the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. And that's a saying by Albert Einstein. So I put that on my cover. I don't know if you can see that. So in here, and I use my little fountain pen to draw and write. I'll put in here my thoughts for some ideas that someone had, and I'll write their YouTube channel down. And then this one is, and I didn't put a plastic, or actually these are not plastic, this is actually packing tape. This one's my fountain pen, and I do ink testing. So when I get new inks, I'm going to go ahead and try to put the little ink test there with a Q-tip, and then I'll ink up my fountain pens with that particular ink and write with it. And then I'll document what pen I used. But this is kind of fun. And it's not going off a different path. It's not going into a different direction. And I was really thinking about this in the past couple of days when I mentioned to you about watercolor and inks. It's creativity that is at its purest sense. You find something that you enjoy. The more you enjoy it, the more you're going to do and work at it. Color helps in anything that you do in an art form. So if you watercolor, if you oil paint, if you get out your Crayola pen, Crayolas, and your markers, that's all creative. And that's all building on the sense of color and play with color. My pencils, I love taking my pencils whenever I go anywhere with, especially with my husband being a nature photographer. I see things very similar to how he sees things, but I see it in structure. I see it in color breakdown, because I may want to duplicate it, or I may want to incorporate some ideas that I found in a YouTube channel. So I hope that helps you understand my scrambled brain and understand how and what I think about, especially, for instance, with my 2-3 new designs that I'm going to have. This playing with color really helps when I do my selection of my palette for a new rug or a new wall hanging. All of this is knowledge that brings a cohesive look to your artwork, whether it's fiber, whether it's knitting, whatever it is. I just truly want everyone to take that time and enjoy. Until next time, may you find peace and joy. Take care. Bye-bye.